All right, I'm on. I've hit record. I'm on with Sacha. Sasha, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
and I was super excited to talk to you because I this is okay. This is about to come out of my mouth, and I realize like now I'm going to sound like a weird obsessive, but I never get one-on-one time with you. So, so after the podcast, can I have your address? I'm just going to show up at your house and hang out outside. Just kidding. But yeah, but I was like, I want to interview Sasha just because I want to hang out with her for an hour. Um, yeah, so anyway, not beside in addition to the fact that you're amazing and do amazing work, it's not just all about me, although I seem to be making it that way. Let's talk about you. So let's start at the beginning of what I know, like 2018-ish. Is that right? You leave your corporate job?
2019, I quit.
2019. Okay.
Yeah.
Leave your corporate job. I like to imagine you storming out victoriously, like throwing things around the office, yelling at people, finally saying to all of them what you have always wanted to say to them, and triumphantly getting in your car and driving away.
Well, there was a little bit of that. I definitely walked out in Christian Louboutin shoes. Like I literally put my sparkly Cinderella shoes on, and my dad flew over and filmed me walking out, like hair flicky. Not that I
No
had any
way.
hair, but yeah, oh fuck yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I recently did break into the grounds, but that's maybe not a
Wait,
story
what
that
did
we
you
should.
do?
Well, it's like, sure, I might tell you that story offline, just because.
Oh, okay. I really want to know that story.
Can't divulge it on
Oh,
air. It's just because it might be used in something that I talk about soon. So
okay.
I will tell you this offline.
Okay, that's fair. Sorry to everybody else who doesn't get to hear that story. I
It's
don't
all
care. We've already established this is all about me. Um, yeah, that's really man, and that's a deep like I have actually there's a place that I work. I worked a long time ago, that I drive by routinely, and I've often wanted to break in just to go see like what they've done with the space, but I haven't yet. I promise. So thinking back on that moment, would you have because you left that to pursue full-time author services career like editor, writer, podcaster, um which has proven successful. Would you have done anything differently, or there's anything you would have changed about what you did?
I wouldn't have done anything differently up to that point.
Okay.
So I did all the right things in that I got rid of all my debt. I cut up all my credit cards. I reduced my outgoings to a smaller amount as humanly possible.
Nice.
And I think that I got myself as many varied income streams as humanly possible. I did halve my income. Like I halved my income
Oh,
quitting.
nice.
But I'm now way in excess of what I ever earned in corporate. So I'm just so much in
Yeah.
a better place. So yeah, like I think that I did everything right up to that point. What I didn't do right after that were two things. I think the first thing was not having enough faith in myself and my ability to earn money outside of author services and like through the fiction and through the writing. And the second thing was writing what I thought I had to write rather than writing the thing that A brought me joy and B was like as close to a blend between what I wanted and what the market wanted. So like as somebody who, and we'll talk about strengths later, but as somebody who's hyper competitive, I do understand the market, and I did not lean into that. And I should have, because my income has skyrocketed now. I'm writing fiction that is what I
Interesting.
want and brings me joy and is also a blend of what the market wants. So
Yeah.
that would probably, I should have let go of the series that I was writing basically in order
Mm.
to write something that I knew would sell.
So I want to chase both of those for a second. Talk a little bit more about what do you mean that you didn't have faith in yourself to earn on your fiction?
So I think that the first year that you quit your day job, you are in survival mode. Like it
Mm.
doesn't matter how you get to the end of that first year, you just have to survive. And so you don't give yourself enough, or I'm saying you, really, I mean me, but I did not give myself enough headspace and enough perspective and enough like faith. I just scrambled and
Mm,
thought that maybe I didn't value myself, or like maybe I didn't believe that I could earn from fiction, or that I could earn from nonfiction books, or that I could earn from things that were the things that I really wanted. So I spent all my time trying to deliver services for other people, doing freelance work as well. So a big portion of my income was freelance work.
mm,
Um, and actually it's taken like a lot of internal work and a lot of like coaching and trying to like restore the faith that should have always been there in me,
mm.
to believe that I can do it, and then leaning into the things that I'm good at.
Yeah. I'd imagine that like taking that work that you didn't want to do also had like an energy slash emotional impact on the work that you did want to do.
It didn't initially,
Okay.
because I was so, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you can cuss all you want.
I was so fucking grateful to be out of there. Like, one of the reasons for jumping when I did is because I was more or less clinically depressed. I was in a
Mm,
very bad place because of the impact of that environment. And so leaving when I left wasn't just about going off to write. It was also about, I was in a very bad place. My mental health was
mm.
so bad that I was like chronically sick as well. I always had some kind of cough or cold or like injury or body issue. Like, I haven't really been sick since I left 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild to hear you say because I've only known you on this half of life, and I think we met in like 2020.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's weird to think that you had a period of your life where you were sick and depressed.
Oh my
That's
God. I cried every day for weeks, weeks and weeks and
wow.
weeks. I would phone my dad at lunchtime, or I'd phone my mum and I'd just sob hysterically down the phone, or I'd shut
Mm,
myself in the toilets at lunch and just cry because I just couldn't cope. Like, it was, and the thing is, there were some people there who were deeply happy.
yeah.
It just wasn't the right environment for somebody like me. I am not supposed to have a boss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I am not supposed to be controlled by other people. I am not
yeah.
supposed to be in an environment where they don't like risk. I
Mm,
fucking love risk. Like, I
yeah.
want to take risks. Therefore, not being able to do that was extremely uh unhealthy for me.
Yeah. That's I love the like the application of self knowledge and the application of like self understanding um to now to now position the business you're building to be like, okay, this is what I need to be doing because this is how this is where I thrive, this is how I'm strong. Like it's very emotionally healthy.
Yeah,
um
and I'm trying not to say yes to anything that isn't a hell yes. Like, if I'm trying
yeah.
to cut out all of the things that I don't really want to do,
Mm,
because I spent a long time picking up jobs thinking that I needed to do it to earn money
yeah.
to pay
Well,
the
and that's
bills.
that like scramble mentality of like I just need to do as much as I can as fast as I can to ensure that I mean, I understand I've been there to
Yeah.
ensure that ensure that like I'm going to make this payment or I'm going to hit this mortgage or I'm going to, yeah, whatever that thing is that you're
And
striving.
100% understand. And I am not like out all the way out the other side. What I am is, I'm at the point where I'm no longer scrambling,
Yeah.
but I'm not at the point where I am like gracious enough to give myself the rest that I need. So like, I've kind of got out of the point where I'm just saying yes to everything and picking up any job just to pay the bills. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm only saying yes to the things that are important, but I'm
Yeah.
still fighting myself not to just work all the time, partly because I fucking love my job, but also because I'm not actually apparently 21 anymore. And shit takes a little while to recover from. I just think,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was just working this morning. I went and worked out with my 16-year-old son at the gym, and it's very embarrassing to come to a machine after he does and have to like lower the weight
yeah.
because my 46-year-old body is like, no, that's not
Yeah.
what you're doing right now. Like I
Try
used
again,
to do
honey.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my body's like, no, look at him, look at you,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
him, look at you. Like
Yeah.
you're not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to chase the you were writing. So there's this, I want to chase both these threads that you've laid out because I think they're both super important for authors to hear. Um, a lot of times we're inundated by this, like, this is what works because
That's
people like
wrong.
me sell author services. And so,
Mm.
like, I have a brand. If you ask me how to improve your writing, the answer is likely going to be dialogue because I am the dialogue doctor. So, like, I have an answer. Um, and that goes for like marketing and how we write in the market as well. And I know a lot of us have pursued like, oh, this is what I'm quote unquote supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to write. Um, your first series was like a dark fantasy thriller.
It was
Um,
young adult fantasy. I guess
young
it was
adult
it
fantasy.
wasn't,
Okay.
I mean, it was on the line of dark, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
I read the
super dark.
first one. I really liked it.
Did
It was a good
you? Oh my
book. I
God.
did. Yeah. Um, but the you've made a transition now to sapphic romance.
Yeah.
Talk about how I want to know what finally broke in you to be like, okay, I'm getting away from what people are telling me I need to write to make money to this is what I want to write. And then I
Okay.
also want to know how does it feel? How's the change in the feeling when you write?
Okay. So, I mean, you can tell because you can see me, but even asking me, my face just lit
You
up.
did like you
Yeah,
actually like
like
sat back, your shoulders were
yeah,
back, your
yeah,
face got really bright. You were like,
yeah,
yay! Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I am somebody who loves to learn and somebody who loves to gorge on information and input. So I typically am a product, whatever I write is a product of what I've input.
Hmm.
Like, and that will be the places that I visit, the museums I go to, the TV I watch, the books I read. And because of society, the very vast majority of content in the world is heteronormative, white, straight things.
Yeah.
And
Cis men
so
like that have really, cis men like me have really enjoyed that for a long time.
yeah, they
Yeah.
did. They did. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try and smash that down though. Sorry about that.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I wrote because that's what I'd taken in.
Yeah.
And it was a couple of years ago now that I accidentally stumbled upon a sapphic young adult book. And I picked it up and I read it and I was like, oh shit, this is my love. Like, this is my
Mm.
life. Like, I see some of me in this. And then I had these fleeting things called feelings. So you
Yeah.
don't get them very often. But
Okay.
all of a sudden, I had like an overwhelming abundance of these things called feelings whilst reading this book. And I was like, is this how people read? Is this what it's like? Yeah, like I'm taking the piss, of course, but
That's
like
hysterical.
legitimately, I was
No,
very
I love it.
numb
Yeah.
whilst reading.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized what the value and impact of being seen and feeling seen was like until I suddenly felt seen. And so I read then, as you do, I think I then read like 30 books back to back that were all
Yeah.
sapphic in a very short space of time. And then I sort of got to the end of that and I was like, I really love these, but something's missing.
Hmm.
And then I stumbled upon Queen Takes Rose, which is by Katie Robert, which is a very spicy, kind of borderline fantasy, kind of contemporary sapphic romance.
Okay.
And it just changed everything. I was like, oh shit. Like, oh,
That's very
this
funny.
is what I'm supposed to be writing. And it was genuinely a light bulb moment. It was like T-junction, crossroads. Either we are going to stay here or we are
Yeah.
just going to say fuck it and go down this road. And I had nothing to lose. Like, my fiction wasn't earning any money. I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I'd done all the shit you're supposed to do. I'd written covers. I had covers designed that were to market. I had tried to change up the blurbs. I had delivered what I thought was to market fiction. It absolutely wasn't.
Yeah.
And the only way you learn that is by writing something that doesn't sell and realizing that you haven't actually delivered anything that readers want. And part of that was because I couldn't actually describe what the book or the series was, and I still can't to this day. So
That's never good. We're like, what
no.
is that? You're like, I don't know.
But you should read it. Like,
Yeah,
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 okay.
yeah. It's a
So
mystery. You should read it and tell me. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Oh dear. So I had nothing to lose.
yeah,
That was the key. I wasn't making anything, so I had nothing to lose. There was literally like huge risk and no risk. There was
yeah.
huge risk because if I did invest in this and it didn't pay off, I still wasn't going to be earning from the fiction. But if it did pay off, then I was gonna like win because I would be writing something that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I was about to say, even if it doesn't pay off, it sounds like at least you're gonna have a good time.
Oh, it's paying off.
Okay.
Oh, it's paying off in
That's
all the
great.
right ways.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that I love that there's very much a like I'd say this not because I know that the words I'm about to say sometimes when people are like, but very much like a coming of age kind of beautiful narrative there of you like, shugging off societal norms and coming to understand who you are in a deep way and then thriving once you accept yourself and
And
how it
here's
is.
the crazy thing, right? The
Yeah.
universe is a silly bugger because it has directly replaced my freelance income and
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
like to the penny,
Yeah, that's
replaced it.
crazy.
So I've now reduced my freelance right down to virtually nothing. I'm more or less full-time writing now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do about between 10 and 20 hours a quarter
Yeah.
for freelance. So it's like an afternoon a month, a
Yeah.
day a month at the most. And I actually have decided to keep that because I love the team and I love what I do. And
Nice.
so I'm keeping it because I choose to keep it, not because I have to financially.
Yeah, not because there's a desperation around it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a totally different mindset to approach it with.
Well, and I
Um,
I just want to hammer home that transition because there was a season of my life where my family wasn't making it. We were below the poverty line, like we just weren't. And every month it was like, what bills am I paying? What bills am I not paying? This was long before I was writing or doing the dialogue doctor stuff. The mentality of the scramble doesn't just impact the decisions you make, but it creates a massive amount of anxiety, and that anxiety weighs down on every aspect of your life. Like everything becomes about how am I going to get the next bill paid? How am I going to get the next thing? So I think the transition you've victoriously, triumphantly made from a place of like being overwhelmed, experiencing intense depression, and like the impact on that on just your physicality, and I'm sure your relationships and everybody around you and all of that to, you know, taking kind of life by the reins and forcing it into a more positive place for your emotional health. And then now having this moment where you've kind of discovered your own voice and you feel seen in what you're doing and working to where you have the freedom to make choices that are positive, not just for you, and you have the freedom to risk in ways that don't feel like desperate grabs, but feel more like, empowering reaches. Yeah, so Sasha, it's really beautiful.
Thank
It's
you.
really beautiful.
Yeah, like I know I'm a long way from where I want to be, but I am several steps down that path now. And it's like I know I still have more work to do because, you know, the books have replaced it
Yeah.
and now I need to go above it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what's that next step now? Like, how do I like? And part of that is about backlist and having more to be able to do more with.
Yeah.
I've replaced it with 2 books.
Yeah. And you're about to you have 3 coming, right? Number
So
3.
the third one comes out in October, but
Nice.
I've replaced that income with essentially 2 books.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where am I going to be with 10 books?
That's amazing. I mean, it
Mm.
is just like, I think it's my dream for every author I talk to, like myself, probably myself included. I my dream for you is that you can find something to write that not only brings you joy, but also brings you financial stability. Like that's,
And it's possible. Like I
yeah.
1000% believe it's possible.
Yeah.
And in 2023, 2024, I started in 2023. I have replaced that income since February. Like it's not even been a whole year.
Yeah.
Like it is
That's
possible.
awesome. Um, So part of what you talk about in your new book, The Anatomy of a Bestseller, is like the different types of bestsellers and understanding what the goal is we're actually shooting for. So now that you've found your voice, what's your kind of like dream bestseller in this world?
I think that's such a hard thing to answer because it's such a moving feast.
Mm.
Like, you know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I don't know what is possible with what I'm doing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still number one competition. Like, there's only one number that I like, and that is number one in the whole store. you know, like, there's number one on the New York Times bestseller list. But like,
Uh,
I think the other thing that we have to accept
if
and
you get,
acknowledge.
I just want to pause and say, if you get a sapphic romance as number one on
Oh,
the New York Times
don't you
bestseller
fucking
list,
challenge me. Oh my
the
God, that sounded like a
whole
challenge.
world needs to bow to you because there's so many ceilings you have to break to make that happen.
Oh,
I
wow.
I am pumped for that day. I have no doubt you're
Yeah.
going to do it, but I'm pumped for that day.
I mean, like, I genuinely, well, so the interesting thing that I was going to say is that we have to accept that the books that we want to get to the top of the charts might not be the ones that we can get to the top of the charts. So, like, you have to take a strategic attack and approach at
Mm.
the goal, right? And set yourself up best for that goal. Like, if you want X, then you should be doing like all of the things that lead to X, not be over there doing G, because it doesn't align and you're
Yeah.
not setting yourself up appropriately. So, like, I don't know if Sapphic can get to number one, but also I don't know if I'm going to always write everything Sapphic, right? I'm going to do that right now, and it's
Mm.
making good money right now. But
Yeah.
also, I'm only in my mid 30s. Like, what am I? I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do in 10 years' time. So I will get to number one in the store. What I'll do it with, I don't know, but I know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just and especially I know that now that I can earn as much as I'm earning in an extremely small niche. Well,
Mm.
if I can do that in a niche, what can I do in something that's a huge genre? It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
applying the same methods that I've done, but
Yeah.
in a bigger way with a slightly different audience.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I'm having
ideally
too much
taking the
fun.
audience you're earning now into that next phase too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think I will probably always write Sapphic something in
Yeah.
some guise, just because it is my lived life, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
It's authentic to who you are.
yeah, but also
Yeah.
I have always read fantasy, and I like money, so I'll do what I need to do.
It's really funny. Um, yeah. I used to say all the time that I didn't like money, but
Oh my God, I
I
love money.
I also recognize it was because I didn't have any. So um
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do work on money blocks as well, like
yeah.
I think we do have to do that inner work. And like, I a lot of my money blocks were because of my heritage and who my family are. And I had
Mhm.
to, like, reconcile the fact that not all wealthy people were butt heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know just because I happen to be related to some.
Yeah.
So, like, it's hard, but you do have to do this work. You have to do the inner work. It's all inner.
Yeah. So let's talk about the inner work. Um, you're a big proponent slash follower of Becca Syme's Better Faster Academy Strengths work. When did you start that? And like what has been I think the most important part of that work for you?
I don't actually know when I started. It's got to be more than 2 years ago now, I think.
Okay.
It's
It was
got, because it was,
after the switch, after the
no, it was
corporate.
before. Oh, after corporate,
Yeah.
before switching to Sapphic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So at some point in the last 4 years, maybe 3 years. I
Okay.
suspect it was about three years now.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the question?
Talk about how like understanding your strengths has empowered
Oh yeah.
this
Okay.
victorious
So
launch of Sacha Black into the world.
so I think that the two biggest things are that I spent a really long time with like a wound in one of my strengths. So I have a strength called significance, which is all about impact, like impacting the world, impacting a person, creating a legacy, leaving a legacy,
Yeah.
having a positive effect on people. And I had a giant gaping wound because life,
Yeah.
childhood, all the rest of it. And that basically meant that I went through my life feeling like I wasn't lovable, I wasn't kind of valuable, I wasn't like a person that could be loved by other people. And so because of that, a lot of my decisions were made from kind of that, you know how we were talking about the scarcity mindset? Well, mine was like from an unlovable mindset.
Huh.
And so everything I did, I was doing to try and please other people in order to win love, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And so the minute that I kind of realized that, it takes all the power away. And
Yeah.
then like I shut my jar of fucks and I stopped giving them out and started doing what was right for me. And
Nice.
so that was kind of the biggest internal journey, I would say, which is hilariously hilarious to me because everything that I do is about rebelling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I needed to do. And on one hand, I was rebelling externally, but
Yeah.
I wasn't rebelling internally.
Internally. Yeah.
And it wasn't until I put those two pieces together that I could then rebel internally. And all of a sudden, all the protective shields come up inside and you heal yourself.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest journey I've had, like on the internal stuff. And then on the external stuff, I think changing my writing process has had the biggest impact on me. And just realizing that you can write in a way that works for you, and you just need to stop listening to what everybody else says about how you should be writing.
Yeah.
And the only way to know how to write effectively is to track what you are doing and to look at the output from that.
Yeah.
And then if you're not getting the output that you want, if it's not working, if it doesn't feel right, then you need to change and experiment and see what does work. So for me, writing pretty quickly works because I can turn off my internal editor. Writing in a competitive environment, so I use a bit of software called O-Write where I can see other people's word counts. And so being the competitive bitch that I am,
Yeah.
I don't want anyone else's word count to beat mine, so I will write faster.
Yeah.
And actually, I write better stories when I write quicker. There is a line because I have a lot of green strengths, which are like thinking strengths, and
Yeah.
so I have to make sure I have done like it's almost like a checklist now of stuff that I need to do in order to give my brain enough space to have planned enough detail for me to then be able to write quickly. I can't just sit down and write quickly. I have to spend time outlining, have to spend time thinking, I have to do input reading, I have to do a lot of visual work. I usually need a map. I have to spend time drawing a map. I need to spend time thinking about character strengths or like what their wounds are, all of this stuff. I still do all of that.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to writing, it is literally like a car race. Like, how quick can I get to the end of that book?
Yeah.
But people see that and hear that and think, oh, well, she's writing a book and I'm like, no, I'm still doing all the other work.
Yeah.
And there's no timeline on that. I don't put a timeline on it. It takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
But when I type the first word, then it's a race to the end.
Yeah, and it is interesting, like the hearing what excites your writing, I think just reinforces for me that idea that like everybody's different.
Oh
Everybody
my God,
writes
so
differently.
different.
Because like I participated one time, and we'll talk about your Patreon community in a minute because it's amazing, but you do like fight to the death type writing sprints where everybody kind of like jumps in with a spreadsheet. I did one time and I had the opposite effect on me because I don't like to compete with people. I like to help other people win. So I found myself like often dropping my word counts lower so that like I was, because I was looking, I was like, I just want to stay in the middle of the group. So I'd be like, oh, I wrote 3,000 words, but I don't want to make anybody feel bad. So I'm just going to put 1,700 words in here. And it's just this like, it was just it was like, but what you're saying is very true in that like, for me to write well, I'm number one strategic, like it's off the chart for me. And so my writing has to be a puzzle. It has to be a puzzle I'm putting together. And every every book has to be a puzzle, and every scene has to be a puzzle that I'm putting together, and every conversation has to be a puzzle of how like that puzzle works. And that's if I'm not solving a puzzle when I write a scene, it doesn't, nothing works for me. So it's just, hearing you talk about what makes you write, I think really enhances what you're saying, that like the important thing is to like watch what you do,
Yeah,
understand
and
what you do, and see it work. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's the bit that all of us who teach other writers have a responsibility to do, is to say, well, is to ask the question, well, what's working for you? Have you tracked your word counts, or not your word count, your page count, or your hours spent writing, or
Yeah.
your days spent writing? Like whatever works, whatever language works best for you. What data and evidence do you have on your previous performance in order for us to be able to look at what processes do work and what processes don't work for you?
Yeah.
Because like, I don't think I have met two writers who write in the same way. And like Rachel Herron, I think it is the one that says this. The only thing that matters is that you're getting to the end of a book.
Yeah.
If you're not getting to the end of the book, then you don't have the right process for you.
Yeah. And I might add getting to the end of the book in a way that doesn't destroy your soul.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to the end of books and it was not emotionally healthy when I got to the end of the book. Because like you were saying, I wasn't writing what I should have been writing.
Yeah.
I was listening too much to what everybody was telling me the market was telling me I should be writing. And I got to the end of the book and I was exhausted and I was tired and it didn't feel good. And I was like, well, this is a pile of crap. And I didn't like it. Like, it's one of those, like, when you are forcing something and it's not coming from authentically who you are. And I think your story is a testimony to that like your if anything, your body will tell you that like
Yeah.
you're in the wrong
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. I think it's a really difficult conversation to have, though, and a really controversial one, because often people are doing what they think they should be doing, and that doesn't necessarily align. Like, I think a lot of us have like an open goal and an inner goal, and those two don't necessarily marry. And then we're not doing the things that we should to get to either of them. So like a lot of people are like, well, I just want to write my art. And I'm like, do you? Or
Yeah.
do you
Is
want to
that
make
really what's
money?
going on
Yeah.
inside?
Is that really, are you being
Yeah.
truthful to yourself, or do you actually want to make money? Because you can do both.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people who are super lucky and really, really obsessively love like super popular genres, or a niche that's super, popular, and they can make good money. And then sometimes you're not quite as lucky and you're in a niche that doesn't really sell, but that's what your heart desires. Okay, if that's what you want to write and you don't care about making money, then fine, you're going to be aligned and you're not going to get burnt out. But if your real goal is to make money, then my question is, well, what are you willing to sacrifice to do that? Because you have to, and that's what I did, right? I found a niche where I could write, because I love fantasy. I'm writing fantasy. That's what I want to write.
Yeah.
And actually, even better, I'm writing sapphic, so that's even better for me. And I'm making good money. And in 10 books time, I'll know whether or not I'm going to be able to hit my financial goals that I want to hit. I'm not naive enough to think you can do that on one book. You can't, like, it's a very rare lightning bolt person that can do that.
Yeah.
But in 10, 15 books, if I'm getting close to the goals that I want, then great, I can carry on doing that. And if I can't, I'll pivot, and I'll pivot to something that's more likely to be lucrative. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice because my ultimate goal is to make money.
Yeah. And I think part of what I really want to stress that you're saying is that this is for globally as an author. Again, this is about understanding who you are and understanding what it is your external and internal need are, and then also recognizing, like you said earlier, that you may not always be in this place. Because I think we like to find a solution and be like, great, I've solved it. Like I don't need to think about it anymore. But it's like you're saying, like, who knows what kind of bestseller you want to write? Because right now you have this goal, but in 3 years you might have a completely different.
And the market changes. What
Yeah.
sells changes. Like, if you stay static and you only write the same thing, unless you are writing like epic fantasy, which has always been popular, will always be popular, but waxes and wanes. It
Yeah.
still waxes and wanes. Unless you're writing in one of those evergreen genres, then the likelihood is that you are going to have to pivot and do new things. And I
Yeah.
think we get too rigidly stuck on what works. And also, I don't want anybody to take away from this that I'm saying that you can't write what you want to write and it not sell. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what you want doesn't fucking matter. What you want has to align with what the reader wants and what sells. What the reader wants is what sells. So
Yeah.
if you are not writing what sells, then you're not going to make money unless you have a massive platform already established, right?
Yeah.
So like the other way to make money is to have a big platform and to already have an inbuilt audience, and you can kind of choose it. And if that aligns with who you are and you're great on camera, or you're great at, I don't know, blogging or whatever type of platform you want, then there are ways and means for people to create these audiences and niches to do it. But it's like we come back to what you were just kind of trying to summarize, is that we have to align, like even our marketing methods, to what works for us.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. And I think there, like, yeah, no, I'm not going to pursue that. You said it really well. So talk to me about market shifting, because you just mentioned that the market never stays the same. I know you and I both follow Becca, and she's been talking a lot this year about the gold rush of the kind of indie age that was, probably 3 to 5 year, who knows, dates, but if somebody can study it in the future and figure it out. But that, like, hey, if you write really fast and you publish a book a month, you're going to make some kind of income as long as you're directly to market. Becca says that time has ended. We're moving into a different period that is like there's a rush of stuff on the market that's changing. We also have like the implementation of AI writing, and like, the conversation around what is this? Is this ethical? Is it not ethical? What's it going to do to the market? What are your thoughts on where the market is right now and how it's working?
I think that it's all I'm trying to think of the word. I think it's all oh no, my brain is shorting out. A distraction.
Okay.
I think it's a fucking distraction.
Okay.
And everybody just needs to put their head down and focus on the thing that they're doing, because the people who are making money
Yeah.
are doing the do, right?
Yeah.
They are not screaming and stomping on social media about all the changes. They are protecting their businesses. They're putting the infrastructure in place. They're not bitching and whining about how things are going to change or everything's going to change. Everything's always going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole point is to set up a business that is sustainable enough that you can ride the wave,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, this is why I always pay attention to the people who are killing it and looking at what they are doing, because they are killing it for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I don't care what happens, because I know that I'm resilient enough to pivot if I need to. I know that no matter what happens, I will find a way full of joy to make money. Like, where do I think the industry is at, to actually answer your question rather than be on a soapbox?
I
I
don't know.
think
The
we
soapbox
are
is kind of fun.
I think we are in the greatest point of opportunity we have ever been in. We have more accessibility for people who have additional needs. We have more diverse types of fiction, more diverse tools at our hands. I think this is the most positive place we have been in for a really long time. Is it a little bit scary to have this change on the horizon? Sure it is. But there are going to be people who ride the wave and who succeed because of these changes. I'm going to be one of them, right? Which is why I'm focused on, what is the end goal? How can I use these tools to my advantage or not? Or how do I get rid of them? And, how can I set up a business that is sustainable? I think that, with the rise of AI, we have even more opportunity to work out who we are without those tools, and to use those realizations in our brand. Be more you. That's like the most important thing you can do, because readers are buying feelings and they're buying authors. Like, that is why people go back to an author. Auto buy, right? This is a one-click author. Well, that means they're not buying the story, they're buying the author. So who the fuck are you, right? That's what you need to work out. Who are you in your fiction? And I think once we work that out, the tools don't matter. It doesn't matter, because you will be consistent, you will be on brand, and you will be delivering to your 1,000 true fans or whatever. I still think that stands. I still think that the 1,000 true fans model is what you should be racing towards.
Yeah, I love that. Who are you watching right now?
In what which authors?
You said, like, who are you watching? Like, they're killing it, and that's where I want to be in 3 years, 5 years.
Everyone. I'm joking.
Said like someone with high input. I'm watching everyone all the time, all the things.
Well, when I tell you that I look at the Amazon top 100, I look at that every day.
Really?
Yeah, every day.
That's interesting.
Because I want to know who's selling. I want to know who's winning.
Yeah.
Because those are the people winning. I want to win. So I want to know who's winning and how. So, like, for example, you've got people like, and I get her name wrong, but she was just on the Wish I'd Known Them podcast. I think it was Katerina Moira, something like that. She often is in the top 100. Most of her books launched to #1. You've got people like Carissa Broadbent, who's indie. She's just done 6 and 7 figure deals for like 13 language translations for her Serpent and the Wings of Night. You've got people like Katie Robert, who's been around a bit longer. Most of her books launched to New York Times or what's the other one? USA Today, like people like her. Basically, anybody who I see, Olivia Wildenstein is another one, she's fantasy. Anyone who I see in the top 100, Pippa Grant, that's contemporary romance. She was in the charts over the summer. Frida McFadden is hybrid, indie and trad, like more on the
You really are watching everyone.
Oh, I'm watching everybody. I watch the charts like a fucking hawk because I want to know who's winning.
Interesting.
And because if they're winning, there's something I can learn from them, right? Even if they're not the same genre, I can look at what they're doing, how they're advertising, what their platforms are like, how many books do they release, what genres are they releasing in, how do they treat their audience, what are they doing on their newsletter, what kind of content do they put on their social media. Like, I am consuming every piece of information I can about the people who are winning.
That's so interesting. I'm so fascinated by this, Sacha, because I'm the opposite. I don't think I've ever looked at the Amazon top 100 chart. I don't think I've ever looked at it. I don't think I've ever looked at it. I know I laugh all the time. They're like, because I and I'm being very genuine and serious about this. I really deeply do love you as a human. I think you're an amazing person, and you are like one of my favorite people to talk about. But I think in so many ways, you and I are like total opposites. Like, that chart does not inspire me. I don't care. It's really funny. But yeah, so I'm so interested. How can I ask how, and you don't have to answer this, what's your like balance of, before I ask this question, let me caveat. I'm not asking because I think anybody should replicate this. I'm asking because I know you to be a person of discipline and rigor, and I want people to hear this. Because when you say you look at the 100 top Amazon charts, I know you. I know that doesn't mean like you look at it like people look at Facebook. That's not what you're doing. So what is the balance for you of like studying these people, investment in time? Like, what does that look like for you? And you don't have to answer that. If you want to be like, I'm punting that question.
Oh no, I'm very honest. I might not put specific income figures to things, but I'll give you percentages. I pretty much will answer anything. There's very little I won't answer. I mean, I do spend a disproportionate, I probably do scroll it a little bit like people scroll Facebook, to be perfectly honest, because I don't scroll social media. I only have social media accounts in my business name. Like, I don't have any social media accounts in my personal name. So I mean,
by scrolling it like people scroll Facebook, I meant like mindlessly without intention.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
So I mean, every day, every other day, I will just go and have a quick look. I'll just go and see like who's #1, who's number 10, who's like, and if you do that, every day, and that'll take like a minute, right? Just to
Mhm.
scroll the top 100. I'm just looking at covers because I don't remember names anyway. So I look
Yeah.
at covers and I'm like, do I recognize that cover? Yes, no. Okay, well, if I
Yeah.
recognize it, how many times have I seen it? Has it been here for a long time? Has it not? No. In terms of like intensive,
Yeah.
I do that before I start a series.
Okay. So you have
So I
seasons where you're looking at it.
definitely seasons,
Yeah.
and then I just look at the charts for fun. So I just have a quick look to see what's selling.
Yeah.
But I will do an intensive period of study before I start a new series. So I'm just about to start a vampire series.
Yeah.
And so I have brought the paranormal romance K-lytics reports from Alex Newton, and I listened to his video twice. I always listen once just to listen to it, and then I listen again. Then I read the reports, usually twice. Then I'll spend time, and this will take me time. I will spend time looking at his top 100 authors, or his top, whatever number of authors. I'll look at the top 100 books. I'll look at their covers. I will go and read their blurbs. I will read a good portion of the books that are selling that I think are good comp titles. I won't just necessarily, so like with paranormal, there's a shitload of werewolves and shifters and stuff. I'm not interested in that. I want the vampires. So I'll read some of the straight stuff that's selling because I want to sell. So I'm not going to go and read books that aren't selling. I'm not interested. Like, unless it's sub 5,000, sub 10,000 in the store, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, I want to write stuff that sells, which means I need to know what other people are doing that sells, right? That's how, otherwise I'm not going to create something that sells. Like I said at the start, I'm a product of what I've input and taken it. So I will do things like, I will spend, I would say, 1 to 2 weeks of working time studying the market, and that doesn't include reading books. So I mean, this is like, I pull covers off. I will go and look at like their Instagrams. I will go and look at their websites, like how many series have they got, like what are the crossovers, how are they badging it, are they standalones, are they series, are they writing in first person, third person? Like I will go and it's really hard for me to quantify this because I just do it so naturally. I'm inquisitive. I'm doing it because I'm interested in what they're doing that's helping them win. But because I have this natural affinity to like deconstruct everything, and I do it with prose, like that is what I teach, right? Like I end up doing it with the market because I want to know down to a forensic level what they've done, and how's that different from a different genre, or how's that different from an author that got to 1 versus somebody who's at 15 versus, in
essence, you're like interviewing your reader through what they've bought in the market.
Well, I mean, I will go and look at reviews as well. I literally go and look at the 5-star reviews and the 3-star reviews to see. I don't really look at the 1-star because that's usually they've gotten the wrong reader. So the 5-star tell me what the readers loved, and the 3-star tell me the readers who love that genre, but the author missed something for them. And I'll do that on Goodreads, and I'll do it on Amazon, which is why I say this shit takes me like 2 weeks to do that. But by the time I get to the end of it, I've got language that I can use that readers use. I know what the tropes are. I know the words that they use to describe the things that they love in these books. I know the types of advertising these authors are doing. I know the types of images they're using, the branding they're using. I know how frequently they're published. I know what the reader expects in that genre. And so I am, essentially setting myself up to deliver something that the readers will actually want, because I bake all the marketing into the book. So I will know what trope. I will know that there's like ennui, for example, that everybody loves, like vampires who are, are very bored of life and, tired and, that kind of feeling.
Ever since Anne Rice,
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But they literally go feral for it. So I know I need to put that in. And so I come up with like a list of stuff that I know I need to put in. And then I write what I want to write. So like I still get that artistic, because that's actually the science, isn't it? Like we are scientists as creatives. We've got to like mix in what they want, like a little drop of this, a little drop of that, against my magic mansions, because that's what I want to do. Against the fact that these guys are lesbians and they love boobs. Like and I feel like a scientist when I do this, and it's so fun. The challenge, rising to the challenge to write what I want to write,
Yeah.
and still weave in the things that I know will help it sell, is fucking magic. I
Well,
feel
and
like a magician.
part of what I think is brilliant about the system you're describing is you have found a system that is bringing you success that seems to perfectly align with your strengths, which
100%.
I think is where we all wish we could be. It's a yeah, that in of itself is a huge achievement of yours. So
Oh, thanks.
yeah, you're number one winning in the strengths, Sacha. Uh,
Well, I think it's probably Ellie, because she's the one that's dealt with me bitching and whining for the last 3 years.
she's your better,
Totally.
faster coach. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Um, so I've got like 5 minutes with you, I think. Last thing I want to talk about is your community, because I'm part of your Patreon, and it is a shockingly devoted group of followers. Like, you've almost built a cult. Um, which I literally think some of those people would like take up torches and stakes and like come defend you physically if anybody ever came to you, which is beautiful. I'm not criticizing. I'm a little in awe. Um, one of the things I want to talk about. I have a couple questions, but I'm trying to decide which one is most important to me. What about what have you found as part of that community that you find brings value to writers? I'd love to hear your perspective on that. Like, what about the community is working? Because I think to say, while you think, I'm just going to say, I think to say, well, it's because Sacha is amazing, is actually disingenuous for what you've created. Because it's not just like, oh, Sacha's great, much like you're describing with your um devotion to understanding your potential reader, right? Like, none of your success is by accident. Um, even if at the time I think you may not have realized what you were doing, I think you're so competitive and such a input driven person that I know you've watched it and you know what works and what doesn't. So what about the community do you think brings value to writers?
Acceptance.
Okay.
I think that we're all little weirdos who
Mm-hmm.
have been pushed to the edge of society and to the fringes, and we all felt a little lost at some point. And we have managed to swim to each other and find each other. And so there is pure acceptance in the group. It doesn't matter who
Mm-hmm.
you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your heritage, your background, your family, your income. You will be accepted. And there is a zero tolerance policy for not accepting people,
Mm,
right? Like,
yeah.
and I think that breeds a really safe space for people who have not always necessarily felt safe. Like, I have grown up not feeling like I had a safe space where I could say the stupid thing or share the nerdy word joke, or, my humor wasn't understood, or just feeling like I didn't belong. And like, the community is found family, and there are no stupid questions, and you do belong. Like, every writer belongs in this community, and like, it's open arms for all the little weirdos, right?
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know how else to
That's beautiful.
describe
No,
it.
that's a beautiful way to put it. And I can say that I've done some very weird things in your Slack, and you have never been like, Jeff, cut it out. So I could I could I could attest that that is true. All right, well, thank you for doing this with me. Where I want to be respectful of your time, and we've got a couple minutes. Anything else you want to say to, well, let's do it this way. Well, you have the podcast going, and there's the Patreon. Um, which are both fantastic. We didn't even talk about the podcast. You're like plus 200 plus interviews in. We didn't even get to that. Um, how else do you want people to connect with you And I'm just gonna say people should just go buy your Patreon. Like that just it's like $3 a month. Just go do it. Anyway.
I mean, Patreon is patreon.com/Sacha Black. Instagram is probably where I'm most active as Sacha, and that is at Sacha Black Author. And then if you're interested in the fiction, TikTok is kind of where I post for the fiction stuff there, which is at Ruby Roe Author.
Okay.
Or the Rebel Author podcast, of course.
Or the Rebel Author. Yeah. Sacha, thank you so much. This has
Thank you
been
for having
fantastic.
me.